Democrats, the California Democratic Party, as you have heard, is preparing for the critical fights ahead in 2022. From one of the most critical midterms for the nation, to protecting the right to vote in our state, to ensuring that our party is a place of inclusion, the responsibilities are endless. But this would not be possible if it weren't for the incredible work of the party's executive director. California is used to leading the nation. And as I am, I know that you will be proud and a little sad to learn that our executive director is the only Latino executive director for a state party in the nation. Our convention, our party, and our work would not be possible without her steadfast leadership at our helm. Please join me in welcoming California Democratic Party's executive director, Yvette Martinez.
Yeah. Thank you, Rusty. Thanks for your leadership, your friendship, and for that very kind introduction. Good afternoon, Democrats. I'm looking forward to moderating a conversation with three phenomenal women leaders who I will introduce in a moment. First, I want to set the context for this discussion. In my own life, I have been lucky to have the example of amazing women who've helped me define what leadership means. I was mentored by Senator Barbara Boxer and many other female elected officials I am proud to have worked for. We Democrats are lucky to have several women from California who serve as role models for so many. If you saw the State of the Union on Tuesday, you know what I'm talking about. For the first time in history, we saw two women, two Californians, with President Biden as he addressed our nation. For this morning's conversation, we want to talk more about women's leadership and how California women will continue to lead our party to victories in 2022 and beyond. We also want to touch upon what's at stake for women if we don't hold the House and win the midterm elections. All right, so let's get started. I'm going to do very brief introductions of our panelists. We'll post links to their more complete bios in the chat for your information. Our first panelist is a longtime healthcare advocate and lobbyist. Currently, she serves as the CEO for Planned Parenthood affiliates of California. Please join me in giving a virtual welcome to Jody Hicks. Hey, Jody, thanks for joining us. All right. Next, we have a veteran in Democratic politics, a noted campaign strategist, and a leader from the labor movement who now leads Emily's List as the president. Let's hear it for LaFonza Butler. LaFonza, woo! All right, finally, we have a fierce advocate for worker rights, gender justice, and more accessible voting. She recently left the California State Legislature, where she represented the 80th Assembly District, and soon she'll be taking her fight for justice to an even bigger perch, beginning in July at the California Labor Federation. Lorena Gonzalez. Lorena. All right. I want to start with a rapid-fire question for all of you. This is the first week of Women's History Month. What does Women's History Month mean to you? One word, LaFonza. Would you like to begin?
Example.
All right. Jody?
Celebrate.
We need more celebration for sure. Lorena?
Empowerment.
Empowerment. Way to go. Okay, let's, delegates, let's hear from you. Why don't you put one word in the chat and tell us what Women's History Month means to you? Okay, let's get to some questions. Jody, I have you going first. Republicans have made overturning Roe v. Wade a goal since the day the court ruled in that landmark case. Do they have a chance to overturn Roe in the next term? Do you think they will? And what can we do to protect against that possibility?
Thank you. Thanks, Yvette, for the question. Thank you for inviting me here today. It's really exciting. You know, I'm always joking that I'm the Debbie Downer at parties right now. So I want to be really clear. Roe will be overturned, or at the very least, it'll be severely gutted. Probably this summer. It could happen even sooner. So with that said, I think there's a lot that we still need to do. I want to be clear, California has protections, and we're lucky because of the leaders that we've elected, including former Assemblywoman Gonzalez here today. I mean, it's important that we continue to do that in California, because what does it mean when that decision happens? It means that about 26 states are going to institute legal bans against abortion. We're talking about 36 million people of reproductive age that will no longer be able to access care in the state they live in. And in California, we need to not be complacent about how important it is for us to continue to be a reproductive freedom state, because that means the other half, the blue states, have to ensure that they're able to take care of all of those people that are going to need care. 1 in 4 people need those services sometime in their life, and they're going to have to go somewhere. And so, we've instituted a lot of things here at Planned Parenthood to get ready. We quickly put together the Future of Access to Abortion Council that included our leaders with recommendations about what to do. We've launched a Say Abortion campaign. I have my shirt, to try and end stigma, but certainly, vote, sign up with the party to ensure that we're electing the right people, donate to things like abortion funds and providers. That we have to be very diligent in this coming year.
Thank you, Jody. Planned Parenthood has always been with us, and we really appreciate your support. Next, I have a question for Lorena. Lorena, you have led efforts to expand the vote. Republicans are attacking voting rights around the country and trying to make it harder to vote and harder to gain access to the ballot box. What can we do to stop any and all forms of voter suppression here in California and across the nation?
We're lucky here in California because we have done so much and passed so many bills to really make voting as easy as possible. However, when we implemented some of the provisions during the pandemic to make sure everybody got a ballot at home, we did not force the full implementation of vote centers, meaning that there are actual places to go in every single community before the week before, in fact, of Election Day. And that caused some confusion and continues to cause confusion, especially in some Black and brown communities. So we need to do that. But the other thing we have to be careful for here in California is really the misuse of the initiative process. When you talk about voting access and the right to have your voice heard, when we allow corporations to purchase initiatives and really put things out that hurt women, if you look at Prop 22 from our last election, that really stymied the minimum wage, paid family leave for overwhelmingly people of color and women. We know that the initiative process has become a tool of corporations and big business and a way to hurt women as well. So in California, we're lucky. We have some challenges, but nationally, we have to contribute what we've done here in California and show that it works to other states as well.
Thank you, Lorena. We're also proud that we have a really strong voter protection team and program here at the party. Next question is for LaFonza. Hi, LaFonza. Long time no see. Well, a few days ago, we saw President Biden deliver the State of the Union address with 2 trailblazing California women, Vice President Harris and Speaker Nancy Pelosi, sitting behind him. We still have a long way to go to gain true gender parity in elected office. Do you feel that we're doing all that we can to elect more diverse women at every level of government, from the city council to Congress to the White House? When do you think we'll see a female vice president? Female president?
Thank you so much for having me. Thank you to Rusty and all of the officers of the party. So glad to be with all of you. I don't think I've gotten the opportunity to congratulate the Assemblywoman on her leadership of the California labor. So congratulations, Assemblywoman. I know the labor movement in California is going to continue to lead the nation under your leadership. So thank you all. Of course, Yvette, we are not doing all that we need to do. There wouldn't be organizations like Emily's List, like Close the Gap, like Higher Heights. The work of Voto Latino would not be necessary if we were doing indeed all that we could do to ensure not just equal gender representation, but equitable representation even across those genders. California has 1 Black woman serving in its state Senate. There are 0 Black women in the United States Senate. And this country has never elected a Black woman governor of any state in our history. And so I would say, absolutely, we are not doing everything that can be done. But because of organizations like those that I mentioned, because of diverse state party leadership across the country, and state parties that are committed to doing the work, not just at the top of the ticket, but in communities all over the state, like the California Party is, I have hope that we will continue to do better. And that we will indeed begin to lift up the true leadership that is behind every Democratic Party across the country. And to your question about when we'll see a Democratic president, look, my opinion is very soon after President Biden decides what he's going to, his leadership. He's already said he's running in 2024. That'll be his last opportunity to run. And so hopefully 2028 is going to be the next year of the woman.
All right. Well, we have midterms elections coming up, and as you know too well, a lot of people are feeling down, disheartened, and tired of politics. A question for each of you. What should our party be doing to inspire volunteers and voters and the nation more broadly? Jody, how about we start with you?
Sure. I mean, I think everyone's feeling that, right? But I think it's important for us to go back to the values that we're fighting for right now. I think the other side likes to use words like freedom fighter and things like that, but they're fighting for things that really the majority of Americans do not believe in. We want to fight for the freedom to do what you want, to make decisions for your own future, to make decisions and choices about your own body. Fighting for LGBTQ people to just be who they are, who they want to be, fighting for employees to have the worker protections, fighting for clean air, fighting for freedom to be able to access healthcare. All of those are values that are important, but they're also really critically on the line right now. And I think if we go back and continue to talk about and reclaim that we are fighting for freedoms for people to have economic opportunities to be who they want to be, and be an equal and equitable part of society and accessing the things that they need to be whole. That's important and that's inspiring. And we need to remind people that that's what we're fighting for. And I think if we do that, and then also as LaFonza just beautifully laid out, we have a party of not enough, but diverse people, the people on this panel even. That's inspiring to be looking around. The State of the Union was inspiring to have those two women back there in those positions. And so I think we can and will be inspired coming into this next election cycle if we just keep talking about the values that we're fighting for.
Thank you. Thanks, Jody. Lorena, what's at stake for workers if we don't hold the House?
Well, look, and this is a women's panel, so I want to point out that the right to unionize and the right to collectively bargain disproportionately benefits women. When you talk about closing the gender pay gap, that is done so much more quickly when women have the access to a collective bargaining agreement and a union contract. So, we haven't made the gains we had hoped so far. We passed the PRO Act, but it's stuck, in the Senate. We've got to continue to push to ensure that workers truly have those rights. And kind of on that inspiration, what's going to get people motivated? Just look around. If we look at what Starbucks workers are doing right now, 5 years ago, I would have told you it would be crazy to have 115, I think, individual organic Starbucks individual locations filing for an NLRB election. Well, an NLRB election only exists if you have an NLRB or an NLRA. And so we need to ensure that workers continue to have those rights and actually strengthen those rights. The power has been in the hands of the corporations over workers for far too long. And the only way we're going to make the gains for women and people of color in the workplace is with union contracts, and that's with some action in the House and Senate.
Okay, great. All right. LaFonza, what inspires you? What are some positive things that you feel that can bring more people into the party this year and get them activated and motivated and engaged with our elections?
That's a great question, and I piggyback right on to what Jody offered, and also the Assemblywoman. It really this year has to be about inspiration. These last few years have been incredibly tough on working families all over the country. Whether it's been about the conditions of the pandemic and the public health challenges that our communities have faced, the slowdown of our economy. This has been incredibly tough. And I think as a party, we've got to acknowledge the tough times that families have been enduring over the years. We've got to inspire them. We've got to talk about the program, what we are for, as President Biden has offered, what it is that we want to achieve as a Democratic Party. And then I think, and really the most important thing, at least for me in my role at Emily's List, is we've got to offer incredibly exciting, relatable, authentic candidates for people to get excited about. Not just the same old, but people who can authentically identify with the challenges that working families face all over this country, not just speak to them, but lead on behalf of them. It's not enough to just be able to say, well, I had a union card when I was doing X, Y, or Z. Are you voting for the PRO Act? Are you standing up for women's rights? Do you have a vision for protecting the ballot and making it accessible to all families? We've got to make sure that we put exciting, authentic candidates that have an agenda that can speak to the experiences of families all over this country. And I think we'll get to an incredibly important recipe for success in what others would have us to believe is going to be a wave that we're destined to lose. I think when we get the recipe right, when we put the right seasoning in our gumbo, we will have a good opportunity to lead this country in the way that Democrats are offering a vision forward.
So true. Jody, I think Planned Parenthood does a great job of attracting young women to be activists. The cool factor is definitely there. Look at you. Look at what's behind your screen. It's pink. It's fun. It's proud. What are some other tactics that you have to attract young women and get them involved in campaigns and our party politics?
Yeah, I mean, the pink always helps, right? the merchandise helps. No, I think for women, especially young people, they very much understand, what's at stake and what we're doing. And then also, different from other organizations, we offer health services. And so many women, most women have gone to Planned Parenthood for their health services. And I think what I love about young people is they're being more loud and proud and talking about it and normalizing sexual and reproductive health care. It's why we're running this Say Abortion campaign. But I think they very much understand that having access to healthcare services has, is what's at stake for your very future. Mm-hmm. So if you lose access to those things, you lose access to economic and educational opportunities, and they're very much willing to fight for that. Yeah. And then I love that they're also willing to fight for patients. They come out and they're escorts, and they come out and they talk with patients, and it's I'm inspired by them. Mm-hmm. But I think it's that very understanding that drive, and it's a winning thing to talk about right now is how important those rights are and how much they need to be protected, and people should continue to do that.
Great. Lorena, what was your most proud moment in the Assembly? What made you just so proud of your entire, all that work that you did in the Assembly? Please share that with us.
I think it's hard to make it just one thing. I was taking in what Jody was saying and realizing I guess we need more pink merchandise in the labor movement. So be on the lookout for that coming up. But The Assembly, I was so lucky to be able to take part in so many big bills, authored bills on voting rights, automatic voter registration, obviously, was the co-author on SB 100 to get 100% renewable standards. But I think my heart will always be with our farm workers and being able to pass farm worker overtime, which was, we just saw Oregon pass it, but in reality, it's now California, Oregon, and Washington by a Supreme Court decision that provide these workers, and let's be clear, that were once done, this work was once done by slaves, and so you have still unequal work being done by farm workers throughout this nation. The fact that we were the first state to be able to do that was and always will be the highlight of my career. And that's why it's so important to carry on that movement, make sure that the farm workers have the ability to join a union basically at home and not be intimidated by their employer. And so there's a bill out there this year, was out there last year. I'm hoping we'll continue to work towards getting farm workers in a place of equitable relief.
Thank you. That's a great one. Okay, final question for each of you. Each of you, you're stellar examples of California women leading, but who inspires your leadership? And what is one thing about their leadership that resonates with you? Let's start with LaFonza.
Sorry about that. For me these days, Yvette, it is my 7-year-old daughter, Nyla. She is a leader in her own right, and being able to see her committed to her classmates, to see making sure that everyone is playing together, that everyone has an equal opportunity to participate, that no one is left behind, is really a manifestation of how we all want our communities to be. And so she is an everyday inspiration for my leadership.
Oh, that's so sweet. Jody, who inspires you?
I mean, I think it's hard to pick one as well. I think, I do want to say this is a women's panel and it's exciting. It's also, this panel is all women of color. And I think that lends a very different experience for all of us in what we do and what's expected of us. And so I would just say, my daughter included, I think my grandmother, who came to this country and started a business and became beloved in an almost all white town. And as I talked about before too, the people that show up, I think this generation of folks across the board are just so inspiring in how they, we were taught don't ask, don't tell, and pro-choice instead of talking about abortion. This generation is not that. They'll they're very proudly, whether they're non-binary or what pronouns they use, or I can hear my daughter talking about it at school, and she wants to use she, they, and there's other folks that are using different, and they're very authentically who they want to be, and they're living that life, and inspired by all of them, really.
I definitely think this generation is a lot more bold than we were or are, for sure. Lorena, who inspires you?
Well, of course, all the women on this panel is a good start, and my daughter and my mother as well, who passed on. But I will say this, I'm lucky enough to have worked with probably the woman I look up most to in the world is an inspiration. She was my mentor when I was in organized labor before coming to the legislature. She was my colleague in the legislature. And I just say, in the history of California, one day we will read the name Senator Maria Elena Durazo and know that her leadership style of putting workers first, being consistent, being a great organizer, being a leader on so many issues will make her not just an inspiration for me, for my family, for the people who know her, but I truly believe for generations to come.
That's wonderful. Okay, great. Well, Democrats, please join me in thanking LaFonza Butler, Jody Hicks, and Lorena Gonzalez for sharing their insights with us today. I know I feel more inspired, and I'm walking away with real, true inspiration and the fire in the belly to do what's necessary to win more elections this year. For the remainder of General Session 2, you are going to hear from Democrats running for office or for re-election. Please listen closely.